This morning, we're going to meet two people with extraordinary minds. They're among a handful known to have something called highly superior autobiographical memory.
Wow, they can vividly recall nearly every day of their lives. And as 60 Minutes correspondent Lesley Stahl reported last night, their small group is growing.
When we did our first story, only 6 people in the world had been identified with this ability, one of them by chance, the actress Mary Lou Henner. But that number changed quickly.
Okay, quiz. What's the date that that story first aired?
December 19th, 2010.
What day of the week was it?
Sunday.
Joey DeGrandis, Bill Brown, Tracy Fursan, and Jared Hurd are among the 50 new subjects.
All right, what happened on June 25th, 2009?
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson and Farrah Fawcett died, too.
Farrah Fawcett that morning.
That's right.
They both died the same day.
Louise Owen is among the original group of 6 with a super memory, and Joey DeGrandis, who you just saw in Leslie's story, had his skill confirmed after watching the original 60 Minutes report more than 3 years ago. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Let's start with you, Joey DeGrandis, because I love that you were sitting at home and you see this report. Before the report, did you think I'm just a super smart kid, or did you think I have a special skill?
You know, I knew that I had an ability, but from a scientific standpoint, I certainly didn't know they were calling it HSAM. I didn't know they were studying it. And it was, you know, it was just something I knew for years as that fun party trick, you know, that memory ability. And I certainly wasn't, you know, I was a good student, but not a above average student in math or in science or in any, you know, one particular area. So I never knew until I saw the special, the depth of the research that was being done.
Must have been nice to say, hey, there's other people like me. But when did you know that you could do this? How old were you?
I was about 10. I turned 10 in 1994. And around that time...
What day?
What day? I was going to say that, Charlie. I was going to say that. What day?
Birthday.
September 7th of 94 was my 10th birthday, a Wednesday. And then subsequently that spring, I did the magic show as part of a, you know, wrap-up end of the year you know, symposium for everybody in our class. Everyone had to pick a trick, and it was like a cakewalk. You know,
because you had these calendars behind you, and people would throw out dates.
Yes, watching it, you know, it makes me think how primitive. You know, no iPads, no smartphones. It was, we had to actually manually do this, but people were amazed. You know. My classmates, much like Jake's last night, you know, everyone knew that I could do it, but parents and adults were really floored at that magic show.
I feel strange doing this, but can I ask you, January 15th, 2009, do you remember that day?
Yes, that was
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
Miracle
That was the day
on the
that the plane made the emergency landing in the Hudson River.
And April 29th, 2011?
It was a Friday.
That was a Friday. That was the day that Prince William and Princess Catherine got married.
Yeah. So we did not give them the heads up on these dates. I'm just sort of throwing up some days of. How do you do that, Louise? How do you remember those days and what happened on those days?
It's instant. I mean, for me, it's as automatic as if I were filling out a form with, you know, name, address, social security number, birthday. It's just there. You know, I have an immediate reaction to.
It's the same as say, who did you have dinner with last night?
Exactly. Yeah. It's just I don't even think
explain this to me, though.
Yeah.
What is it about your brain?
I'm with you, Louise. It's hard to put it into words.
It really is.
It is.
But what do doctors? I mean, when you seek out answers, what do they tell you?
Well, that's what the research at UC Irvine is about. You know, they're trying to figure out. They've done MRIs with all of us, and they found that there's a certain part of our brain which is dramatically larger here, the caudate nucleus, which, you know, could be responsible for this.
So for every one of you who have a super memory,
yes,
for biographical things,
right,
you can look at that picture of a brain and it's different and larger.
I think they found, at least I know with the original group of us.
And does it apply to anything else?
Not that I can...
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm a musician. I know I have a really good musical memory, and that was something that was apparent from the time I was really little. And I think my parents always thought, oh, well, she can remember dates. You know, that's probably just an extension of her musical memory. But as I got older, I realized it was something very different.
Is there anything regular people can do to figure out how to do this? For instance, January 5th, 2009.
Yeah, 2009. Okay, Monday.
It was a Monday.
I was thinking, yes. I was thinking
you were having lunch at
I was having lunch at Oto. I was discovering that, you know.
I am so... January 23rd, 2008. Nor and Charlie's birthdays.
It was a Wednesday.
Yes.
It was restaurant week in New York.
Yes, it was.
I went to the Carlisle for, my boss took us out, very nice, to the Carlisle for lunch.
So is there anything we can do, seriously? Is there any exercise or anything I can concentrate on that anybody's watching?
I have a dear friend who, after seeing the 60 Minutes special in 2010, he was so inspired and he thought, I want to pay more attention. I really want to be more engaged in what's going on around me. And he has made significant strides in his memory. And he says, you know, I credit you for just making me more aware.
What did he do, Louise? What did he do?
What did he do? I think he just started really trying to pay attention to what was going on, and you know, thinking about his day at the end of the day, and like, okay, what was really great about today? What's worth remembering about today?
Like,
and
as you're laying in bed, think back on the day. You know, recap.
Are there any downsides to having this ability, Louise?
I mean, it's challenging. You know, the bad stuff is present, but the great things are present as well. I think a lot of times people don't quite know what to do with it. You know, I think sometimes teachers will say, oh, you're a total know-it-all. It's like, well, you know, I remember things.
Can I ask you, because one of the things I thought that Lesley pointed out in the 60 Minutes piece was that you also have the same emotions of that day. It's not just remembering that event. You have the emotions return. So is that difficult in relationships, that you remember maybe something that happened on that day that was traumatic or emotionally scarring?
Or somebody ticked you off and you still remember that.
Right. It can be challenging, but I think, you know, it's what you decide to focus on. So whether you have a great memory or not,
do we know whether
you can hold a grudge or not hold a grudge. You know?
Do we know whether this is genetic at all? In other words, do people have super memories, have parents that have super memories?
Nobody in my family. I don't know about you, Louise.
In my family, I mean, I have relatives who have very great memories, but they don't necessarily have the specific autobiographical memory that I do.
Same with me.
You know, but.
I know, and it seems like your club is growing every year, doesn't it?
Does.
Yeah.
It
You know,
does.
people will see the story and say, I can do that too.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that that's
Are you
happening.
glad?
Yeah.
Why? Why, Joe?
I just think, I mean, the research, you know, to echo what you said, Louise, is fascinating. It's interesting. I'm glad that it's getting publicity. I'm glad that Dr. McGaw and his team, you know, are being spotlighted, and I'm glad that people, just like I did, you know, can see the special and say, I have that. I want to learn more. I want to reach out.
Yes.
But you remember something that was unique to your life, not what happened in history?
I personally am very good. I've always been really good at history. It's been my favorite and strongest subject. And whether or not, I'm assuming it correlates to the memory ability, but I'm not positive. But yes, in my own life, I remember very well. And I could probably give you an idea of what was happening in the world. But as I experienced it, you know, for example, you were spot on with the royal wedding.
Yes.
I didn't. No offense to the royals, I didn't watch the wedding.
I woke up early.
So you were not part of the wedding
that morning.
I would have probably, if I thought a little, like, give me a few minutes, and I probably said, oh yeah, wasn't that the time of the wedding, around that time, and then I probably would have arrived at the date. But since you watched it, you were there.
Now, I think it's a very cool thing. 60 Minutes said you guys are poor forgetters. I think it's a great thing.
I think it's a good way of putting it.
It's a cool thing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.